What is the mechanism at work behind the media, basically the opposition of the media to?
You know something? I'll be damned if I can answer that, even though I've been in this movement for 30 years and I've been interviewed many, many times, probably 1,000 times. Conspiracy, but I think it is. It's a conspiracy of ignorance and silence. The people who are in charge at the major newspapers and major television stations, first of all, I can tell you that the people at Channel 7 here in Detroit, that the main producer is a terrible sexist woman, an anti-male woman. And there's a lot of that anti-maleness among women who are in the media. But there's also anti-maleness amongst men who are in the media. And it's men who haven't been touched by this. Because once you've been through this system, you will understand what we're talking about. So if somebody hasn't been through this system and been separated from their children, they cannot believe that this goes on because it simply hasn't happened to them. Or in the words of somebody a long time ago who said, they don't know, and they don't know they don't know. Specifically about Michigan, there have been several attempts to get a presumption of joint custody passed in Michigan. The two most powerful groups who are against this are the women's groups and the family law section of the Bar Association itself. They control the process. They are powerful. They don't want it. And why don't they want it? Well, it would probably cost lawyers lots of money, because what this does is this promotes legal business by having these conflicts. They don't want a solution to the problem. They don't want the idea that somehow or other children shouldn't lose both parents. And when people ask me for a definition of joint custody, I say, well, a 6-year-old boy once said, my mom and dad got a good divorce, I got to keep both of them. And that's the way it should be. A child should not lose a parent because of divorce, and the state should not be participating in that kind of a process.
What is the problem with the attorneys in general? And then what can we do to...
Was it Shakespeare that said to kill all the lawyers? The legal profession is about the most dishonest profession on the face of the earth. I have found lawyers to be nothing but criminal. They're running a criminal enterprise. They lie morning, noon, and night. They are just collectively the worst group of individuals that I've come in contact with in my life, in spite of the fact that I know one or two who are personal friends of mine who are good, but the majority of them are not worth a tinker's damn. As one lawyer said to me one day, he said, you have to understand something. Law is practiced here, not justice. The court system as it exists today is a criminal enterprise. It's no better than the mafia. And in fact, I think it's worse, because when you walk into court, most people who haven't had anything to do with the court think that there's something going on with fairness. There isn't. It doesn't exist for a father. It just doesn't exist. We have 83 counties in Michigan, and when I get a call from father, he says, do we have a good county in this state? I say, not that I know of. The climate for men is a disaster. Even if you're right on the law, if you get the wrong judge, they will not rule in your favor, even if you're right on the law. So in essence, you have a corrupt system at every level. I used to think that the federal courts were a savior for us, that if we took the state courts to federal courts, they would do something about it. They won't. They don't want to upset the states. They could care less about the Constitution or the law. That's the thing that infuriates me more than anything. That there is no constitutional rights operating in courts around the country for an American father. Well, I do get a lot of calls from women, and they are usually second wives, girlfriends, sisters, aunts, grandmothers. There are lots of women who are on our side because the men that they love are affected by this, and so are the children that they're related to. And maybe this would be appropriate time for me to talk about my philosophy about how this is all going to turn out. And I never had a philosophy where I think I could predict something into the future, but As I shared with you earlier today, from my interest in athletics, nobody wins forever. Not the New York Yankees, not Notre Dame, not even Concord de La Salle, which up until last year I used to say, nobody wins forever. Not the Yankees, not Notre Dame. And last year I used to say nobody wins forever except Concord de La Salle, which was a high school in California that had won 151 football games in a row. They were undefeated for 12 years, which is just unbelievable. But believe it or not, last fall, Concord de La Salle lost their first 3 games. And I think that in the sea of change that we see in life, that ultimately fathers are going to have it.
We're back here live in the studio. We're live on Friday night with William Joseph Christopher here on my right, a man who's been out of prison for less than 24 hours after 6.3 years of being locked up. The man you just saw in the red baseball cap with the big M, that's what a dad looks like after he's been through the process of fighting for his kids, getting zero justice for 20-some years. And he does not particularly want you to know his name, but he was really put through the ringer. And that was at Detroit, Michigan. We're here now in the all-American city of Santa Maria, the place where they put fluoride poison in our drinking water, and we had an inquisition for Michael Jackson simply to try to set up some felony charges so CPS could take his children and charge them, say $500,000 a month in child support, because they have to be kept in the style they're accustomed to. But maybe I'm wrong on that, but I'm right on the fact that he was found not guilty, as I predicted 3 months before the jury. I predicted he'd be found not guilty on all charges. It was all about cutting him off from his children. And if you look at the newspaper today, what do you see, ladies and gentlemen? You see Debbie Rowe going to court saying, I want my kids. Give me the kids. I got to have the kids. Hello, they're not your kids, Debbie. You got paid millions of dollars to turn over the kids and go away. But I'll still have you on the show. I'd still like to do your interview. I'd like to get your side, Debbie Rowe. You did tell the truth when you said Michael Jackson was an honorable person, a good father. You said a lot of nice things. I wonder if you'd still say them now that Michael isn't letting you see the kids. We're back here with William Joseph Christopher. I want to go back and try in 5 minutes here to just lay out the time sequence. You have a common law marriage before God. You marry Naomi Camillo. Noemi.
Filipino version of Naomi.
Okay, Noemi Camillo. You marry her before God. You're living as husband and wife. She's having your first and only son. Is that correct so far?
Well, that comes later, a little bit later.
But a little later.
Yeah.
A little later. Next year, she's pregnant in 98. The kid's born in what, November of?
Actually, she got pregnant first with another child, which she lost.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Did that bum her out?
Well, what she did was the baby was born into the toilet, unfortunately, and she flushed the toilet, and it very much I think affected her. Even she, with her lack of empathy for others, was extremely overwrought by what she had done. Great amount of remorse.
How did you know? She flushed?
She told me.
The baby must have been way premature.
Yeah.
Did it go down the toilet?
That's what she said, yes.
So you don't know that that's true. That's just what she told you.
Right.
Was she bleeding? Did she have placenta or any of that?
Not to my knowledge, not that I saw, no.
And she told you this?
Yes.
Did you ever think at that time you may have a mental case on your hands here?
During there were certainly indications, and I should have known